Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our entitled people, where people truly believe it's all about them and no one else matters. And in today's episode, we've got Karen moms trying to ruin weddings, Karen coworkers stealing promotions, family stealing dogs. It's wild. I hope you enjoy the stories today. Don't shake your heads too hard, and as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. My wife and I received a wedding invite from an old shipmate earlier this year. I'd served with him in the Coast Guard, and I'd stayed in touch over the decades. So let's just call him Chief and his fiancée, Chiefette. I called Chief the next day and formally accepted for the two of us, and sent the RSVP back just to be uber formal. Then, my wife and I marked our calendar, set aside funds for travel, and we went back to normal living. 2 weeks later, Chief calls me with an odd request. He wanted my wife to wear her wedding gown to his wedding. Long story short, they'd found out that Chiefette's mother intended to wear her wedding gown to her daughter's wedding. And instead of making a fight out of it, they were asking all the guests, well, the female guests, to at least wear white, if not an actual wedding dress. My wife was delighted. She could still fit into her dress, and as she put it, when will I get another chance to wear the silly thing? So the day of the wedding comes and we show up. I was in a nice suit and my love in her dress. We walked into a room chock full of women in white. Many were in full wedding dresses. The plan was that we'd all walk into the chapel when the preacher was ready. But Chiefette wanted us all in this room when her mother Karen showed up. I joined the chief outside the main doors, and we watched as his future mother-in-law exits her car in this explosion of white tulle. She was wearing something that would have suited a Disney princess. She marched up to us like a Marine storming a beachfront, clearly expecting resistance, if not rejection. Chief simply welcomed her warmly, and he held the door for her and his future father-in-law, who had the grace to look ashamed. She struts into the room, nose in the air, and then she froze, staring at 20 or so women all wearing white, and most wearing gowns as fancy, if not fancier than hers. Now, I don't know what the chief expected, but he seemed surprised at her meltdown. She went full-blown psycho Karen, and she starts screaming at everyone, calling them out on how shameful they were to wear white to her daughter's wedding, and how they all had to leave. Her husband quietly pointed out that she herself was wearing a white wedding gown to her daughter's wedding, to which she says, "That's different, damn it. I'm her mother. I'm allowed to wear whatever I want to my daughter's wedding." When she discovered that the bride had specifically requested the women to wear white, she deflated like a punctured beach ball. Moments later, the music started, the doors opened, and we all enter the chapel. We had barely sat when the wedding march started, and Chiefette, wearing a stunning red and gold gown, walks in on the arm of her father. Her mother left almost immediately after the ceremony. Oh boy, I only wish OP had pictures to share because that sounds epic, doesn't it? And what a creative way to deal with a mother without outright telling them, no, you can't wear a wedding dress on our day. Brilliant. No argument, no fight, nada. That said though, the self-entitlement of some people knows no bounds, right? I'm her mother. If anyone is allowed to outshine my daughter at her wedding, it's gonna be me. You should all be ashamed of yourselves for wearing white on this day. And this person comments, fun fact, this white wedding dress nonsense started in the 1900s. Before that, you purchased or you made a really nice dress, and then proceeded to wear it for the next few years as your best dress. Then maybe dye it black for a funeral, but that's after you'd worn it for several years. Those dresses were anything but white. Now, we don't even use it for more than the ceremony, maybe a couple of hours tops. Then we put it in a box, put it into a closet, never to be worn again. So I work as an engineer. I do some consulting on the side, but typically only for people I know and as a favor. A good friend of mine asked me to help his in-laws, who were doing some fairly massive renovations. I agreed solely because he asked me to. Now, this is not something I have any interest or need in doing, except as a favor. It's an old house and had "can of worms" written all over it with some of the changes they wanted to do. That aside, he warned me that mother-in-law can be unpleasant, but that was an understatement. She seemed to think that because I was being paid, and I probably charged 1/10 of what a business would, that she could snap her fingers at me like a servant. I had a few unpleasant emails with her, but it was tolerable. The woman was rude when I was pointing out issues with their plans, but nothing too extreme. That changed when I started trying to find time for me to stop by and inspect a few areas of the house to verify some information. I had offered times to stop by on the weekend, but that didn't work for her. I tried evening times, still no. The woman wanted me to stop by during my office work hours because that was best for her. When I told her no, this gets done on the weekends or in the evening, she went from rude to incredibly hostile. She tells me that she's paying me, LOL, and that I work with her availability, not the other way around. I CC'd my friend in on the chain and told them I was out and to have fun working with whoever they get. My friend apologized and I said, no worries, that's not my problem anymore. She did email back, quite stunned that I was walking away, telling me that's not how business is conducted and I should be ashamed of myself. I didn't bother responding. About 3 weeks later, I get an email from the husband asking me if I would reconsider, and that he promises that his wife won't speak to me or be involved in any way. I hear from my friend that the quotes came back much higher, and the in-laws were upset at how long the wait was. They had just bought this house and they wanted to move in as soon as possible, but it's an incredibly busy time of year for the industry. Turns out, when companies you reach out to are drowning in work, and you have a potentially convoluted and messy project, they aren't jumping at the chance to get your business. So now, they're gonna lose the trades they lined up because design would be a month or two out. I passed on the request, as I struggled to believe that she would be kept in check, and also, I had no desire to bail her out. My friend didn't care, just said it was nice watching her attitude give her consequences that actually affect her. Yeah, don't you guys just hate the mentality that some people have? That just because they pay you any sort of money, you're now their servant and you have to bend backwards for them, like they own you. I just love that OP did this and they stuck to their guns. I also love the fact that the friend didn't care, like the guy was probably ecstatic to see his mother-in-law F around and find out. And this person says it the best. They say, not how business is conducted. Businesses will walk away from abusive customers as often as they can. She fails to realize the money she pays you for a particular job doesn't mean you must be at her beck and call. Okay, so I'm heated, and this has nothing to do with the hot summer we've been having. Like, this is absolutely infuriating that these types of people actually exist. On to the story. So I have 2 dogs, a 14-year-old Chihuahua and a 4-year-old Cheagle. I decided to take them to a nearby off-leash dog park to let them get some fresh air, as they've been just lazying around all week. I figured they could do well with the exercise and meet new dogs. So I grab a few treats, a gallon of water and collapsible bowls, their favorite ball, hop in the car and then head out. The day's quite nice. It's not too hot, but definitely starting to get warmer, and figure we could do with a nice lunch when we get back. We get to the park and there's a few people there. 2 families it seems, and a couple of people not too far away. I find a nice big empty spot with plenty of running space and let the girls run loose. We're playing around for a good 5 minutes at this point, and I'm trying to keep my balance with my walking cane so they don't knock me over as they run back towards me and into my legs like I'm the final bowling pin. I'll call my Chihuahua J and my Cheagle C. Now, I'll note that C really, and I mean really, likes to play with anyone and everything, and that's mainly my father's part of spoiling and coddling her as a pup when she was 2 months old. She's never disciplined, and she's spoiled with human food so much that she wouldn't eat regular dog or puppy food. She disobeys, rarely listens when you call her name. You get the point. So now, at some point, There's some kids running around a jungle gym nearby. They're laughing, playing, doing as kids do, and there are some adults that are trying to round them all up and load them into their van. Cheegle sees this and she decides, hey, that looks like fun. I like fun, so I'm going to go have fun. She runs off to join in. My chihuahua's chilling in the grass next to her water bowl and stuffed toy. So I call out to Cheegle, walking towards her, whistling and snapping my fingers, trying to get her to come back. No dice. She keeps moving and she reaches the family. She's running around happily between everyone's feet like a cat with zoomies whose life goal is to trip everyone it sees. The family's almost loaded into the van and one last kid stops and bends down to pet her. I'm thinking, oh good, they stopped her from running off, and keep walking towards them. The mom of the group is buckling a kid into the seat, and she turns around to notice my dog. She looks up at me, back at my dog, and then picks her up and puts her in the kid's arms. She then closes the car door and she ushers her kid to the other side, hurrying them to get inside. I'm close enough to even hear her say, "Go." I then yell out, "Hey, stop, that's my dog." I'm walking as fast as I can towards the car. Out of the car steps who I assume is the father and maybe an uncle. The father says to me, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey now, that's far enough." I scream, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what? That's my dog. She just took my dog." And I am shouting at this point, making sure that I get the attention of anyone else around. That's when the uncle says, No, he's ours. This is my son's dog." That's when I say, "Give me back my dog. Don't make me call the police." At this point, an older and a younger woman come up from behind us. The younger woman says, "Hey, no, that's not right. We were here when you arrived and you didn't have the dog. He did," pointing at me. The father then takes my dog from the kid's arms and sets her on the ground. Cheegle runs away to join my chihuahua at my car, but not before running back to pick up her ball and the stuffed toy at the same time. The uncle then has the nerve to scream at me saying, "We'd better not see you around or you are gonna get effed." I bite my tongue, glaring at them as they get inside their car and drive off, the two women just standing next to me. Once the family's gone, the two ask if I'm alright and if I need anything. I tell them no, but thank you for stepping in, and I apologize for you having to step in. All is said and done, and I head back to my dogs and pick up their stuff. We get back in the car and head back home. I'm currently in my room in bed, slightly shaking with fear and anger. I don't know, but I'm just glad things didn't escalate any further. Yeah, freaking psycho families, I tell you. Trying to steal a dog in broad daylight, like the audacity, right? And the fact that they tried to say it was theirs made it way over the top. And guys, the scary thing is, this stuff does happen, like dog napping is a real thing. And I'm saying that because I had this neighbor a few years back who left their little dog in the backyard, and someone actually hopped the fence and took the little guy, never to be seen again. With that said though, people are giving OP crap for this, saying it's all their fault. Do not take a dog to an off-leash park if they can't obey commands. So to start, I'm a teacher at a decently affluent public school, and for the most part, I love my job. I've made genuine friends among staff members, and the students make the hard work worth it. There are, of course, the negative parts of teaching you always hear about: low pay, grading on off hours, etc. But for the most part, the deal has been good. That said, a few years back, I was recognized by my old boss as a potential leader in the building. He stressed to me that I was very data-oriented and likable among my colleagues. I know my way around Google Sheets and Excel when it comes to collecting and organizing student data, and I'm really solid with parent communication. I was hesitant, but eventually I agreed, and I became a leader for a group of teacher and students at the school. I was in charge of organizing meetings, overall student educational success, all that stuff. That old boss who promoted me left, and I was stuck with a new boss who I didn't know well, and here's where things get messy. I have sensory processing disorder and mild hearing loss. It's hard to explain, but sometimes I genuinely don't hear things correctly. Think if you said, "I'm going to pick up Stacy." I might hear something like, "I'm gone, just wait and see." This happens at least once a day, and usually it's not big of a deal. Unfortunately, it isn't curable, but I manage. In meetings with my new boss would push strategies that were based around focusing on students whose state test scores were almost passing. The idea was that you would focus on all students, but give extra attention to these guys. These initiatives were never written down, and I would find out later that was because the legality of such a thing is iffy at best. When these ideas were shared with me, I would constantly ask the boss after the meeting to repeat herself, and then check my notes to make sure I heard her correctly. I noticed at the time that she was passively frustrated when I would do this, even though I explained I had a hearing disorder. Looking back, I wonder if she felt pressured knowing what we were doing wasn't kosher, and if I made a bad impression. Now to the main character of the story, who I'll call Tenny, and not Karen, since she's the coach of the tennis team. Tenny's well liked by the staff members, and I also like Tenny a lot, and I figured she would be a great team member. Tenny, however, like my boss, became repeatedly frustrated when I would miss things she would say to me, especially in crowded high school hallways. Sometimes, she would even shout something to me as she walked past me. This led to many gaffes and mistakes. I asked her repeatedly to pause and make sure I got what she was saying, or just to email me, but nothing changed. There were at least 5 or 6 big moments that my hearing wasn't accommodated for when a simple email could have solved the problem. And just as one example, my new boss came into the hallway to let us know that an assembly location was being changed. We were to take the students to a new area, not the old one. Of course, I heard the change but didn't hear the location. Tenny was the only one nearby, and I tapped my ear, which I usually do to indicate I didn't hear something, and I asked where we were going. Tenny quickly responded and then walked away, and I, once again, didn't understand. Cue me and my students walking into assembly 5 minutes late, after walking them around the building in confusion. My new boss then asked what happened, and I simply told her I didn't hear her correctly. Well, weeks later, I was called into a meeting with my new boss, and she told me that I was gonna lose my leader position due to inconsistency and disrespect towards colleagues. I asked her which colleagues, and she told me that was private. I then asked her how I was disrespectful, and she said, I was told many times that sometimes you get frustrated when you say you can't hear things, and you tap your ear. That's when I said that that was the ASL sign for hear, as in, I can't hear you. She then said I should have communicated that. I said that I've asked for written communication constantly, and she said I shouldn't always expect it. Now, I knew it was a losing game, and any explanation I would provide would just be shot down. I loved the school and the community, and fighting a new boss was only going to lead to more problems. I shouldn't have been surprised when the school-wide email went out that Tenny was getting the leadership position. Tenny was praised by colleagues in reply alls, and it was frustrating to say the least. I know that she was the one who complained, and it was extremely bitter for me to see her rewarded for it. Cue the next school year. Tenny comes into my room, and she asked me for the student data sheets that I created with Google Sheets. I told her truthfully that even if I did share them with her, there wasn't anything she could do with them. I brought her over to my computer, and I showed her the formulas I worked with and how I needed to adjust them every single time a new student, section, all that stuff was added to the roster. She then asked if I could just continue updating these sheets outside of my leader position, aka do her job. I told her as professionally as possible that I would love to teach her how to do all these things, but I would need a stipend to do so. She asked if any other leaders were doing what I did. I said they weren't. I was the only one, and I always had been. Now, I will admit, I'm a bit ashamed that I took joy in seeing Tenny's face go cold when she realized that I wouldn't fold and there was nothing she could do except cope with hours of extra data work per year or become proficient in Sheets and Excel, something I knew she wasn't gonna do. And the real kicker is the parents. Parents of students 99% of the time are a joy to work with, and I really mean that. It's so fun to work with parents of the people I care most about. but it's that 1% that'll make your life a living hell. I've overheard Tenny complaining about being on the phone with a 1% parent for 45 minutes, losing her entire grading time. A call like that would have taken me 5 minutes tops, since I have the experience of knowing how to stop circular arguments and get the parent on my side for an issue. What has taken me minutes is taking Tenny sometimes hours. And yes, she is getting my 1.5k stipend now, but I no longer have to deal with extra meetings, extra parent phone calls, miscommunication, all that stuff. She's getting all the pain I got and more for stealing my position. I feel ashamed that I'm taking so much joy for this, but Tenny made my life hell in a place that I otherwise love. So all I have to say is have fun, Tenny. Yeah, nothing like a coworker stealing the position that someone else is going for, only to have it backfire on them. I love this so much. The fact that OP made it look easy, so Tenny thought it was easy. As for OP taking joy from this, hey, there's nothing wrong with enjoying a smug someone inflicting pain on themselves. So for some context, I work in a warehouse for one of the major US package delivery companies. Think Amazon, UPS, FedEx, USPS. I load a straight truck, but I also handle the rediverts, which are packages that mistakenly end up in the wrong parts of the building, and they need to be carted to the right area. I do that for 3 separate areas, which can keep me pretty busy. Monday morning for us was a nightmare. We were incredibly short-staffed and busy as hell, so on top of my handling my very packed truck and all the rediverts, I was also assisting another work area that was really behind. That consisted of assisting my manager in loading a semi-trailer and checking on 3 other coworkers who had multiple straight trucks to load by themselves. My manager asked me to do all of this since everyone else was also extremely busy. This meant that my original truck would often get neglected and the packages would pile up until I could get back to loading them. Enter entitled coworker, Karen for short. Now, Karen has just come back from about a month off. She's responsible for sorting packages off one of the main conveyor belts and sending them to my work area. So when I'm not there to load my truck, things can get pretty backed up, and that stresses her right out. Another thing about Karen is she's been kicked out of every other part of the building for being too slow and constantly complaining. If you ask her to lift a heavy box, she'll cry that she can't do it. If it's getting busy and packages are piling up, she cries that she can't handle all the work. If another coworker snaps at her as it's a stressful job so tempers can run high and asks that she do her job, she cries that the other person started a fight. Her and I have had problems before. She once dropped an open bottle of Sprite all over a box containing very fragile medical supplies. Obviously, the box had to be damaged out and claim paid on it, but she insisted it was my fault to get me written up. She's a nasty, nasty person. I don't come to work to start drama or fights. I come to work, sweat my butt off, and to get paid. So Monday, as I'm running ragged doing the jobs of 5 people and my work area was getting backed up, I walk over to hand some rediverts to a different coworker, who was also backed up and running ragged. I look up just in time to see Karen with her phone up, taking pictures of me, my work area, my coworker's area, so she could send them to our manager and complain about how lazy we were being. Now, for those of you that don't know, taking pictures of personal packages and addresses is highly illegal. It counts as a form of mail fraud, which is a felony offense. If the United States Postal Inspection Services found out, our warehouse could have been raided and she could have been thrown in jail. So not only is it rude what she was doing, it was extremely and explicitly forbidden in the workplace to have a phone out. So as soon as I saw her doing that, I started fuming. Thankfully, I happened to spot the sort manager, who's my manager's manager across the way. So I stopped him and I told him what happened. He had a stern talking to with her, which actually led to her getting terminated as that was her 3rd strike at work. I found out later that she actually tried to pin all the blame on my other coworker for being overloaded with packages. Doesn't matter now because thank goodness she's gone. That was some satisfying instant karma at work right there. And honestly, if not that camera incident, it was only time until she was let go because of that horrendous work ethic. Like, it's always so surprising how the worst workers keep their jobs, right? Like, I used to work with this one guy who was horrible at his job, guys. And it got to the point where people in my office were mad that the guy wasn't fired. And you know what our boss said? He said, but the guy shows up every day. And we're all like, yeah, but you know you can get a good worker who also shows up every day, right? But hey, that's r/EntitledPeople for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/malicious compliance episode, where bad bosses, bad teachers, and horrible parents are getting exactly what they deserve. Guys, go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.